Welcome, everybody, into an all-new episode of the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. I am Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us to take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of combat sports. We got plenty going on in all facets. We had a PFL card that we got to check out. We have a BKFC card. We got a preview. We got some fighters coming on talking about their past performances and upcoming ones. And we will even go back into the world of boxing MMA when we talk UFC and some big fights over in boxing that we had this past weekend. Lots of action in combat sports. We'll try to cover as much as we can here in the hour we have on SportsGrid. Thank you so much for being part of it with us every week. Just like we said, we're going to have some fighters on. Let's talk about who's going to be there later with us. We're going to talk to PFL women's flyweight finalist, the Gorilla, Liz Carmouche. She'll be coming on the show later on, as will the Mohawk BKFC cruiserweight Esteban Rodriguez, who had a long layoff and then came in with a bang, literally 3-second knockout in that Hollywood, Florida card to close out the early card before they got to the main card. So great performance by him. Really, setting up the action for a loaded card throughout the rest of that night. So we'll talk to both of them on the show. But before we do that, like we said, we'll talk about those big fights in boxing later on, where we had Pacquiao returning to the ring after a couple of years off against Barrios, where we had Usyk trying to become undisputed champion once again of the heavyweights. And we'll even talk about the retirement of Dustin Poirier and his swan song there against, of course, Max Holloway. All that later on the show. Right now, let's talk about South Africa. That's what the PFL just was last weekend. Of course, it was the first of their Africa cards, but had a big main card there of other fights that you want to see. The main or the prelim card, obviously a lot of African fighters making their name for themselves in the PFL. That will hopefully be a feeder into the PFL World Tournaments to come. But a lot of unknown names for a lot of us. But the main card, loaded with people ones to draw you in. You could have watched it on the PFL app early and live. You could have watched it on ESPN Plus later. All of them leading to some great fights. Let's talk about that, where the headlining fight was a middleweight title on the line between Johnny Eblen and Castelo Vanstenis. Now, Vanstenis, of course, a 32-year-old, the Spaniard from the Netherlands, born in the Netherlands, trains in the Netherlands, but grew up in Spain. Of course, that is why he's called the Spaniard. We went and looked that up now, found that out because I was a little confused about that last week, obviously. Not a guy that we have followed extensively here, but are getting to know now and should know because the 32-year-old was a former Bellator fighter. We had a 7-2 record. I was coming off back-to-back wins. Thought he was going to humiliate Eblen. Said so. Didn't quite do that, but had a great performance that we'll talk about against Eblen, the 33-year-old American who was the Bellator champion, unbeaten for his career, 16-0 before this fight. Beat guys like Gegard Mousasi, defended the belt 3 times, including against Fabian Edwards twice. So he was coming in there defending that belt. We thought he was going to do that. We thought that he was going to retain this by decision like he likes to do, just wear his opponents out, use that great grappling. That was not the case. He did it for 4 3/4 rounds. But as you see there, the fight has ended with just 9 seconds left when Vanstenis gets the rear naked choke. The champ is almost to the scorecards, almost retaining his belt, but a late change by Vanstenis, a quick change of position, and ends up getting the back, and that is night over for Johnny Eblen, who didn't tap. You can talk about the heart of a champion. He certainly showed that because he caught himself in a bad position late, but would not give up and had to be saved by the referee there. 9 seconds left. You see, the referee goes in, checks the arm, sees it's limp, ends the fight there, but it's crazy. For 4 rounds, it was Eblen. Round 1, 2, 3, 4, even most of 5. It was Johnny Eblen doing his thing. He did a good job getting his opponent against the cage at times, taking him down a couple times. Vanstenis did a good job stopping some of the takedowns. There was a lot of clinch work between them, but Eblen was doing a good spot, getting some slams, some ground control, some good shots even on the feet. Vanstenis towards the end started to really pick things up, though. Started to get better and better in those closing rounds, I think, with his striking. And Eblen held the position in a lot of that 5th round. And then all of a sudden, with about a minute left, Vanstenis is able to change position, to pull a transition that catches Johnny Eblen out of nowhere. That lets Vanstenis grab the back with about 40 seconds left. And then he closes out the fight with the choke to get the finish and steal the belt. And he is now the PFL middleweight champion, the Champion Series middleweight champion. This fight, reminded me very much of, Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen, when it was just Chael Sonnen beating up Anderson Silva for 4+ rounds, and then Silva locks in that submission and gets the win. I felt like a lot, same kind of thing in this regard, where this time the champ was the one dominating, and then is not able to close it out late when it matters most. and this time the challenger takes home the belt. Vanesina said you could put him anywhere with anyone. He's fine. Gave respect to Johnny Eblen and talked about how strong he was. But he said he's a legend and from a family of legends. His dad trains him. His brother's in the PFL. They're family of legends, and now he's a champion. Let's hear from the champion after the fight.
Not surprised. I told you I'm number 17. This is my special new number, baby. I'm the champion. I'm the best. The rest.
Vanesina's now 17-3, 9 of those wins by submission. Eblen now 16-1, his first loss, and it's losing his belt as well, unfortunately for him. Then you also had flyweight women's battle between Dakota Ditcheva and Sumiko Inaba. Inaba, of course, was a 34-year-old Hawaiian lady samurai, former Bellator and PFL fighter, coming off a second-round ground and pound win over Mackenzie Stiller last September. Ditcheva, the 26-year-old Brit who now trains in the U.S., 2023 PFL women's flyweight champion in Europe, 2024 women's flyweight champion in the PFL U.S. tournament, coming off her win over Tyler Santos last November, was a big favorite and should be, because we thought she'd get a second-round TKO because she's finished just about everyone. Did not. She goes the distance in this one, but still gets a unanimous decision win, and it was just her fight. Inaba just was able to survive, really. Inaba was good early on, coming forward, kind of pushing Ditcheva on the back foot a little bit, but by the middle of that round, through rounds 2 and 3, Ditcheva was able to just keep her distance, was able to push her opponent off, pick her apart. When they're in the clinch, she would use some nasty knees to the body and even grab the head and pull it down into some knees as well, throwing those elbows, just doing what she does. Credit to Inaba for lasting throughout all 3 rounds. But as Jimmy Smith said on the broadcast, like sometimes when you're tough, that just means you get a longer beating, and that's what happened with Inaba, as Ditcheva clearly wins that fight. They said she landed something of like 154 of 172 strikes, but unfortunately now will be out for a while, because while she is going to film a period piece over in Bulgaria, where she will play a princess apparently, she also was injured. We saw it towards the middle of that last round, her signal to her corner, saying, broke me hand, and shaking the left hand. Confirmed that after the fight that, she felt like she busted something in her left hand, and was very emotional about it because, she's been out for a while after winning that tournament, and now is going to sit out a while again because of a hand injury. But now she is 15-0. 9 of those, she had a 9-fight finish streak that now is over, gets this one by decision. Inaba is now 8-2, but a tough opponent who's going to be hanging around this flyweight division. You also had a featherweight battle. AJ McKee versus Ahmed Magomedov. Magomedov, the 30-year-old Dagestani fighter, of course, training under Nurmagomedov, who was there for multiple fighters. Magomedov had an 8-fight win streak, most of those by decision, going against McKee, the 30-year-old from California, whose last fight was against Paul Hughes. Split decision loss last October. He had a 4-fight win streak that was broken before that. So looking to get back in the winning ways, the former Bellator featherweight champion, coming back down to featherweight. He had fought at lightweight since April of 2022. So dropping back down to 145. Could he do it? Said he felt great, and he showed that. We thought he'd win by decision. He got the unanimous decision win, just really controlling things throughout the fight. A great job by him, easily beating the Dagestani, which is not easy to do, of course. That is a great team. That is a great crew, but McKee controlled him with his grappling and even has some great striking as well to show what he is great at. 23-2 now in MMA, while Magomedov is now 10-4. You also had Zayanuk versus Zumi there at lightweight. Zayanuk, another Dagestani fighter under Nurmagomedov. He dominates Zumi, the 36-year-old Japanese fighter. He gets an easy win for him by unanimous decision. We thought he'd get the decision when he did that. But before we get out of here, we got to talk about the beatdown that Corey Anderson put at heavyweight against Golstov. Golstov, of course, won the 2024 PFL heavyweight tournament. Anderson, the former Bellator champion, former UFC fighter, was moving up to heavyweight for the first time. We thought that'd be a problem. It was not. He gets a second-round win by ground and pound. And after Golstov had some early success, Anderson just took over, put him to the ground, beat him up, was able to take him down, was able to ground and pound, change position, just do what he wanted to do, just dominated the heavyweight. And he looks like he's going to be a force there. Maybe a battle for Nagano coming up soon.
Shamar Stewart is having troubles before he even plays a snap. And he's seeing what's happened to the stars of this football team, by the way, right? The Higgins stuff wasn't super smooth. The Hendrickson stuff's not smooth.
But why pay him that big number where you've got Trey Henderson, who's an absolute superstar at edge? You always build a defense. Why haven't the Bengals been back to the Super Bowl? in the last 4 years? It's real simple.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Y'all know where I'm going. And yeah, you can call it Knick bias all you want. I'm taking the Knicks to come out of the East. I look at this New York team and think that Mike Brown is an upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You may disagree. I don't care. I look at the fact of getting Yabusele and Clarkson off the bench is going to make the Knicks more dangerous.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
The approach with Marion Hampton is if you're going to draft him aggressively and early, you better be patient because it might take half a season before he really takes over this backfield, and it might never happen this year, depending on how Harris performs. Gadsden and Disley so far not fantasy relevant at this time. Again, a more run-heavy offense. Hampton and Najee Harris, very intriguing, but the ADP, I think, on both of them is slightly off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Eric Skubal, another incredible performance. I mean, almost going 7-8 innings again, striking out a ton. I mean, I kind of felt like the Tigers really wanted that win.
There's a bit of narrative to it that people like to buy into, or, kind of, I don't want to say push a narrative, but the fact that he's doing what he did last year, but better, and is now in a spot to repeat, like, there's something to be said.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. We're excited to continue talking about these PFL 2025 World Tournaments. And right now we're going to talk to one of the finalists for the women's flyweight tournament. And of course, if you've been watching women's MMA over the last 20 years, you know her. It is the gorilla, Liz Carmouche, who joins us now. Liz, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about this fight against Bishop. We're going to talk about this tournament so far and what you've done in it. But first, before we get into that, I want to, take the time out to thank you for your service for this country. I mean, obviously, anybody who's followed your career knows that you were a part of the armed services for the U.S. before you ever got into MMA. And as someone who has had family, in the front lines, whether it be fire, police, military, we always want to make sure we appreciate all those who gave their time and gave, their part of their life to do that for us and protect us. So thank you for your service before we even get into your amazing MMA career.
Thank you.
So now, obviously, that was a big part of your life, and now this has become just as big later on. You've had a legendary career before even getting to the PFL. Anybody who has followed you knows the names that you have had on your record. You have fought Rousey, Tate, Shevchenko, up and down, Santos, up and down. Any woman who has been big in the flyweight division, since it started pretty much 20 years ago, or got big 20 years ago to now. You have been in there against the best of the best, besting many of them. And now you look to do that again in this tournament for the PFL in 2025. What's it been like for you? I know, obviously, that you have looked back at this point in your career and, seen where you've been, because I heard in the first broadcast, that first fight, they were talking about how, you have your bucket list of things you want to do before you're done. So you've obviously looked back and you've seen what you've done. You've gone through the career before, in retrospect. What's that been like for you to see where you've gotten at this point in your career after all these years of fighting, and, where you probably started thinking about what this was going to be to where you've become?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. I definitely kind of pictured, for one, myself fighting in the flyweight division, but then having the accolades of accomplishments that I've been able to achieve so far. And I just want to keep adding to it. There's a lot of things that I would want to have success on in my career and be able to fulfill for my own satisfaction. And that's what I'm looking to do in each of these tournaments as I keep competing.
Well, you've had a great journey so far, and it continues now. You came into this tournament this year. You fought in all different organizations, different formats, different types of way things are going. But, what's it been like for you making this adjustment into the PFL in 2025 with this tournament? Obviously, you started with, you had the tournament last year with the PFL, but it was a different format with the playoffs and the regular season and the points and all that, just straight bracket style that they went to this year. How's that been for you? What's the change been of making these bunch of fights quickly in a couple of months here? And how have you felt? Have you gone through these couple fights?
Yeah, I felt good going through the fights, and then the change definitely makes it a lot smoother. just in the sense that you're not having to try and figure out how things work logistically with points. That just because you accomplish one doesn't mean you succeed and continue on into the tournament. This is cut and dry. You win, you lose. You win, you go forward. You lose, you go home. And that's pretty cut and dry. Makes it easy to really focus on what you need to achieve. And I'm just coming out here looking to guns blazing, get that strong finish, and come out with the championship win.
And you've done a great job with it so far. Obviously, dispatching your opponents with not much damage to you. I mean, the first fight went pretty quickly against Joanne. There was a one where you just came out and dominated. You got one of those bucket list things with the liver shot. What was that like for you to come in there and get that big win, not go deep into a fight, not to take too much damage or expend too much? Just, did it help you be ready to go for the semifinals much easier?
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that I could go back to the gym the next morning with absolutely no damage, gas tank feeling good, body feeling good, is always like a point of comfort in knowing that you have everything you need, all the tools, and your body's in the shape it needs to. So it's really just refining things for you. So that was really good going into the semifinals, be out there to get a really game opponent and a tough one that was going to push me and needed to be healthy for it.
Well, you did a great job then, right into the semifinals and right back into action. This one went all the distance. It was a unanimous decision, but still one where you controlled where you wanted to be. You were doing your thing against Donna. She was a tough opponent. She stuck in there with you, but just really another clinic almost for you, just putting on the performance you wanted to and just showing the experience and the veteran domination that you did against Donna. What was that like? Was she tougher than you expected, that she was able to go the whole distance? Or did you, expect that to be a tougher one, being the semifinals and being, that much step closer to the big check here at the end?
Yeah, of course, in the semifinals, you expect it to be a tougher fight, right? Because you're progressing and the people that are going forward are the winners. But I honestly didn't think she was going to be that game of opponents. That came out as a surprise. She was so much tougher than what I anticipated. And it really made me push myself and take it to a new level. So it was a great fight and a great experience for me against a really humble and respectable opponent, which is my favorite kind.
And now this propels you into the finals, into the possibility of the big payday here against another tough American and veteran in Jenna Bishop. Both of you have been around for a while. Similar style with the grinding down and trying to control your opponent. What does it do for you now when you meet up against her? Is it easier for you to fight somebody who has a similar style to you because you know which ways to attack? Is it tougher because maybe the openings aren't the same, especially with her having been around like you for a while, fighting different women at different styles? What's it like for you as you prepare for this fight? How different is it facing someone who has that similar grinding style like you do?
Yeah, I feel like our styles are not similar at all. I mean, for one, I think that when it comes to striking, that's on her comfort level. Where she looks for is the opportunity to capitalize on the ground in a more traditional jiu-jitsu style. And I come from a 10-plan background, so my style is very different. And but I do think that us having a very strong grappling sense and both having trained with Justin Flores and feeling comfort when it comes to grappling exchanges for takedowns, I definitely think that that's going to play in and make it that much more alluring and exciting for the fans to watch.
Well, obviously, this is big. This is a nice payday for you. You can't focus on that. Obviously, you got to focus on the opponent in front of you and not focus on the check. But obviously, that's a big, help and a motivating factor. What's it been like for you? Do you like the way that they've changed it up with, obviously, it's a smaller, to some people, a bit smaller payday, but not because of the way things worked out with the $1 million where you had to, subtract fight purses and things like that. What's it like for you to see that big payday at the end, especially at this point in your career when you fought at, other organizations where maybe women weren't getting the same respect? I'm sure it's exciting for you and you're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to this fight. We can't wait to see you and Jenna do battle, to see who is going to be the champion of this 2025 Women's Flyweight Tournament. Liz Carmouche, we've been following your fight career for a long time. It's been exciting to watch, and we can't wait to watch this next fight as well and add to that lore. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid.
Thank you so much.
it was rich that you're talking about the fact that you don't know what the point of going out there and playing golf and winning golf tournaments when you've got guys who are pining, living in their cars, trying to make a cut, playing the DP tour, desperate just to be in an event, let alone have the ability to talk about winning an event and being like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Fulfill me. I'm not fulfilled as a golfer.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Y'all know where I'm going. And yeah, you can call it Nick bias all you want. I'm taking the Knicks to come out of the East. I look at this New York team and think that Mike Brown is an upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You may disagree. I don't care. I look at the fact of getting Yabusele and Clarkson off the bench is going to make the Knicks more dangerous.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
So Ramondu's already lost a ton of weight. That's great. He needs to stop fumbling the football. Trayvon Henderson, I think, is that playmaker you need. Then you got Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams. We kind of talked about those guys. Those are the two investable wide receivers. Hunter Henry, I think in a deeper league, is probably your tight end 13 or 14. He's right on the fringe. But I think a good situation here for the New England Patriots.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
This is interesting. Minus 116s, minus 120s in the marketplace. We're seeing now minus 140s across the board and 6.5s on the total.
He's not a big strikeout pitcher. His metrics look terrible, but he somehow seemingly get 5 innings, 6 innings, only 1 earned run. It's because he's a super ground ball pitcher, induces that soft and medium contact. He can essentially sap the power away from the Dodgers.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. And last week we talked about this big press conference, of course, that the BKFC held down in Hollywood, Florida before they had that card. Unfortunately, did not get to a lot of it because there's just so much going on, so many different cards to recap and preview, and so much in that press conference. I mean, we talked about Mike Perry and his antics, of course, talking smack, getting involved in just about everyone talking, getting up and smacking Mundell's hat off. It seemed like he was game to face him. Also seemed like he was game to face Josh Dyer. Talked about how everyone, is getting his DMs trying to fight him. So we'll see if him and Mundell finally mix it up, or if Dyer, matched up against him, or there was, other matchups that were talked about with European guys possibly fighting Americans. I think we're pretty for sure getting Gary Fox versus Kai Stewart, and maybe some other ones. But we'll be seeing if Faulkner and some of these other guys, Chapman, I believe. Cruiserweight, if they come over and fight the champions in the U.S. side, we'll see all that. And then, of course, we had all these details about the Baddest Man Alive tournament, $25 million on the line, 15 to the winner, allegedly, and like $1 million for second place and payouts for everybody else down the line. So all that was awesome and great. And, we didn't get to cover all of it, unfortunately, because there's just so much going on, like we said. But there was one thing that we didn't get to cover that I really want to bring up and talk about a little bit, because it's a very interesting concept. And Dave Feldman has had a lot of these. Obviously, tournament that they're going to have is one of those that they're trying to put into fruition, that they're hoping to do this year. Looks like it'll be next year. He's talked about other things where, trying to take care of the fighters, like health insurance and pension. And unfortunately, those didn't work out. But there is one other thing that he is now trying to bring into fruition and trying to do with the fighters to set them up financially, to make them, better compensated and make them a bigger part of the success of the organization. He talked about that. So let's bring that up right now.
Connor had a long talk, and we said, listen, let's do something that no one's ever done. Let's make all of our fighters owners of the company. Yes. So we're going to start off with every one of our champions, whether they're a UK champion or a world champion, or if you're a long tenured fighter that has at least 10 fights with us, you're all going to get equity right here.
Yes!
I'm not talking about, I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to do it tonight. This is your equity. I got shares of the company for all you guys. You guys are going to be owners of BKFC.
So a great plan by them. We'll see, how it works out. Hopefully it works out, because, we've seen this in combat sports a lot. We saw many times with boxers, going against promoters saying that they ripped them off, or managers that, took all their winnings, and guys that, fought in epic pay-per-view battles over, 5-10 fights, many times after they've gotten to championships that end up broke and needing money. Or you've seen this with some of the fighters in MMA and the UFC lately, specifically, where they've had multiple lawsuits against them brought by former fighters trying to get a bigger piece of the pie, where they're trying to get more of a straight split like you have in some of these other major sports, like sports like the NBA or the NFL, where it's like a 50-50 revenue sharing. You've seen lawsuits and class actions trying to get that for past fighters, for current fighters. And, there's been some settlements that I don't think have gone through, and others that have been, other cases that have been brought up. So there's been a big thing in combat sports. These guys and these girls putting themselves on the line, putting their future health on the line, and not getting anything, that can sustain them throughout the rest of their life. This is something that'd be very interesting if they could do that. Like, as I said, Dave Philbin tried to come up with a pension plan years ago that he proposed, being in that world for a long time, being in boxing, combat sports, trying to do right by the fighters, because he was a former fighter. And Conor McGregor, obviously a big part of the ownership, is a current fighter and has made plenty of money, enough to sustain, half the roster, I'm sure, for the rest of their life, but, has been on the other side of these negotiations. And now they're trying to do that with these fighters with this ownership stake. And, that could be something that hopefully works out huge for the fighters. Now there's different levels, of course, as you said. If you're a champion, you get a bigger piece. I believe if you make, it said 10 title defenses, you get $3 million. You get $1 million if you win a title and make any defenses. So, of course, 10 title defense is going to be a lot for anybody in combat sports. 8 title defense is big. That's a good payday to help you sustain for a little while, hopefully afterwards. I'm sure there's other levels as well. Like you said, if you're a longtime fighter, fighters like Faria and Britton Hart and Travis the Animal Thompson, who have been around, fighting 9-10 times for the organization, are going to get a good piece. And the more these fighters fight, the better chance they'll get. And the BKFC has always been game to keep fighters around. And they're not one to, even with a, cruddy record sometimes, get rid of guys. I mean, look at Julian Lane and the long streak that he was on losing, and they didn't get rid of him. They brought him back, and he has, started to turn things around, and now is fighting for a title. So Dave Philbin does not give up on fighters easily. And it seems like he's trying to do the right thing here to take care of them, not just for when they're fighting with them, but for the long term. And I applaud that. I applaud what him and Conor are trying to do here. Hopefully it works out to the benefit of most, if not all, the roster. And, hopefully it's something that we could, if it works, implement throughout combat sports in other areas and other organizations as well, to get these fighters taken care of, not just for now, but for the long term as well. And salute to the BKFC and Dave Philbin for trying to make this happen.
New to casinos and not sure what to play? Well, try Blackjack first. It has a lower house advantage compared to other table games, making it especially player-friendly. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What do we always say? Follow the money. They just gave Derrick Henry an extension. Do you think the Baltimore Ravens are concerned about it? Doesn't seem like it. And if the Baltimore Ravens aren't concerned, then we shouldn't be concerned either. Because Derrick Henry is a freak of nature. He is a special boy. That's what he is. Derrick Henry is unbelievable. And every year, and then this year too, he's going to get undervalued in drafts. He's going to go after Ashton Genty.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Talk to any player. Hey, used to get 18 sacks, got 7 last year. Maybe it's a defensive scheme. I don't like it at the end of the season. Oh, he's got to earn his trust back. No, he doesn't. Just show up at camp the next year and start to dominate once again, and everybody will forget. You're telling me in game number 1, the Miami Dolphins going deep, Tyreek Hill, 6 catches, 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, man, we're still working the process. No, you're not. The minute you get back on the field, dap it up, get after it, and have a good season.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Bronny's not going to be an all-star. Bronny is one of the most notable names in the league, and legitimately going from people's conversations of why is he ever allowed on an NBA court to, no, Bronny's like the 9th man on the Lakers. That is a legitimate leap that I think people would genuinely respect quite a lot, JY.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. And of course, we got to highlight some of the best performance we have seen in a while. I mean, you want to talk about, we've had some crazy knockouts in the BKFC over, the last 6 to 12 months. It just keeps getting shorter, whether it's the heavyweights, whether it's, the smaller guys. But of course, one guy who's always getting in there, looking to make action happen quick, is Mohawk Esteban Rodriguez, who joins us now. I mean, it's been a while, man. We got to talk about this fight, but first of all, where you been? I mean, it's been a while between fights here for you. You're always exciting. We know you're always game to get in there. What was the layoff with the BKFC here? Was it injuries you had to heal up? Were people just scared no one get in there with you? What happened that we didn't see you for a while there?
Man, I had to show adversity, man. I'm here ready to kick the door down, man. Unfortunately, I ended up running into a pulmonary embolism, getting ready for a fight that I was supposed to have out in where was it? Connecticut, I believe. And I ended up going in, finding a half a dollar size dead tissue in my lung. That they said my lung was on the verge of collapsing, and that I was gonna die last year, May. And I was like, hold on, I can't accept that. I buckled down, bit the mouthpiece, man, and I completely switched everything up. I started doing bead roots to open up the veins. I started doing the mole implants so I can start helping that the lungs out, man. Breathing routines out there in the steam room, and I buckled down, gallon of water a day, and I completely switched it up, pushed it out, rehabilitated it, and I gave it that environment to truly build something like where it perfectly to recover. And man, the results were phenomenal, man. The results were phenomenal when I started like really thinking outside the box, doing breathing routines, 20 minutes in the steam room, 20 minutes out of there, then doing swimming and implementing all that, raising that heart rate up and then trying to control that in there. Man, I rehabilitated everything completely. I went through all the doctors' tests that they told me, the pulmonologists and all that. I went completely cleared it out. Got back to the drawing board and started straight from scratch again. And we're here making history now, man. We're out here making history now.
Well, we're happy you're back. We're glad that, it didn't take you out. I mean, it takes a special breed to get in there and fight. It takes this even crazier breed to get in there and do it with no gloves. But, I mean, a guy that you almost die and you say, okay, I'm still going to come fight, though. Like, when can I come fight?
Oh, yeah.
That's even another level. Guys like you, Francesco Ricci, who had that, almost happen. You guys are even crazier. So we love you for it. And, great performance. Now it makes more sense, too, when we see anybody who's looked at your social media with the training, you see the mask on a lot. So obviously, I'm sure that's part of the recovery and the working to make sure that doesn't happen. And we're glad you're in there again. And, we can't wait to see you again because, honestly, we barely got to see you this time. 3-second knockout. Man. That is just insane against Perez back in BKFC 78 in Hollywood a couple weeks ago. I mean, were you just so wound up from not getting to fight for so long that you wanted to get off quick? What was it? Was it a plan to attack him that fast? How'd this go down?
Oh, man, I had to make a statement, man. I told them from the beginning I was coming to mop the floor with the 205 division, man. And I was able to really perform and show that to the world instead of being able to tell you guys. And like I said, man, this is only the beginning. Imagine, this has been the longest camp I've ever had. 6 weeks? Oh, man. And then not only that, I was able to really start giving back to the community. So I had the kids' support from this. Everybody that wasn't able to really afford the gyms and all that, I created a program called Training in the Park, free to the public, learning the basics. I figured it was a way to help keep me engaged and with my cardio and with as far as like being active. And it was phenomenal, man. The support that I had gotten, and then just that fire, man, that just makes you want to fight for something else. It's like there's nothing else like it, man. Just goosebumps. And I felt the support from my people, man, going in there. And there was no way I was coming out there losing, man. You guys were going to have to keep carrying me out on my shield. And I told them I'm coming for that fight of the night or that knockout of the night. And man, oh, man, it felt so good to get in there, man. It was way too long for sure.
I'm sure it did, especially, getting a quick night like that. The guy doesn't even get a chance to hit you. Although, a guy like you, I'm sure you wanted to get a few shots in to make sure you're still feeling good. So you kind of were disappointed because you're nuts like that where you want to take some shots too. You want to actually mix it up in there. But great performance by you. Once you put him down, once you got that first shot that dropped him in the second one on the way down, just for good measure, did you know that was over right away? Did you see it in his eyes he wasn't getting back up?
Man, when I felt it, actually, when I went in with the southpaw charging, because I knew since he was a southpaw, nobody's ever really took consideration of like my orthodox and my southpaw stances, like because I like to switch around in between both of them. So now that I felt a lot more comfortable with my hips being open, I was able to really utilize that front southpaw stepping, man. And oh, it felt so good, man, because I feel more technical on my southpaw. And like I was really able to showcase that, man, because like there was times that he swung at me and I knew that right hook was coming. So I just doubled up on that jab, and man, it was that shield that got me to move in. And then I snuck in on that left coming in, and I just felt I was in position to release that southpaw hook, man, that front hook, and it felt so good. When I just felt his body kind of go limp, that's when I was like, because I was scared going in there. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was scared going in there. Like I knew this was gonna be a good battle. If he was able to let some shots off, but I didn't know I was able to have that much power. I knew there was gonna be a little bit difference of my power because I felt more open with my hips. But like, man, when I let that first hook go, and then like I just felt everything go limp, and I was like, whoa, wait. In my mind, I was able to think and process. If I let him get back up, he's going to get back up. I was like, let me finish this right now. And I caught him with that left hook, and then I caught him again with that right hook just to make sure the job was done because I was calculating his hands wasn't touching the ground and his knees weren't touching the ground, but I know he was still going down. But to make sure he wasn't getting back up, I had to let those last two off, man.
Well, you certainly did that. There was no chance after those two punches that he was getting back off that mat. One of the fastest knockouts in the history of combat sports. 3 seconds is just insane to even fathom. That's how quick you got the finish, but you did. And afterwards, you had a message for someone else in that division. Of course, when you feel that good, you're going to look to the top there, and you certainly did that, as we see in the post-fight interview.
Listen. Chris Camozzi!
Oh, yeah.
You know what time it is. I told you before, player pimp. I'm coming, and ain't nothing you can do to stop it.
Now, of course, for anybody who didn't want to count that was longer than the whole fight, that interview right there. And that wasn't even that long. That's how quick you finished him. But now, of course, going out the champ, Camozzi. I mean, everyone obviously in the division is going to do that. When someone holds the belt, everybody wants to be the champ. But, it was a layup for a while here now, but 2 fights in a row still. If you're, your record here, do you feel like you deserve to be in that top 5 and deserve that title shot against the champion? I know everyone's gunning for it. What do you think makes you, stand out as the guy who should be the next one in line?
Man, listen, I've been following through with everything that I've been telling them from the beginning. I told them that I'm going to be the 205 champion. I told them when I seen him out in the Ice Wars and I was able to get that belt and feel that gold, I was coming. And there was nothing he was going to be able to do to stop it. And after that 3-second knockout, baby, I knew this was my bread and butter. And I knew God was putting that in front of me, man, for a reason. And I'm coming for that belt. There's nothing he can do to stop it.
Well, that title's up there. Of course, that's a goal. A lot of other guys, I'm sure. Another thing that could be a goal, of course, is what the BKFC announced last year, and now is kind of giving more details on this, baddest man alive tournament. How are you chomping at the bit? Were you talking to Feldman there in Hollywood saying, dude, get me in this tournament? What's going on with this?
Oh, man, if they were to put me in that, they would guarantee them fight of the night every single fight. Imagine what I was able to do in 6 weeks. If they put $25 million on the line, oh, Lord have mercy on their soul. I don't care how big. I don't care who they are. Listen, I was the first to heavyweight, and I was taking shots from some of the baddest men on the planet coming up, man. I'm ready to bang, baby, and I'm ready to show the people that this is what I was made for. And I'm ready to tell you guys, man, if they put me in there and give me that shot, woo, the community of the world is going to feel it, baby.
Doing great things and in the ring and the community. That, of course, is Mohawk Esteban Rodriguez. Go check him out at Team Mohawk MMA. You can see some of the stuff that he's been doing in the time between fights as he was recouping and helping out people in the community, getting them involved in the fight game. We look forward to seeing you back in there soon. Obviously, not a single punch on you. I'm sure you're ready to go.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to see when you're back for the BKFC. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Combat Sports Report.
He was already doing the dusting of the spot of where this one was going to go after Augusta this year. And the players, he's had this insane start to the year. We won 3 times. Surely Scotty Scheffler isn't going to have a resume by July that's going to be way better. It's just, there's no way. But here we are. It's Scotty Scheffler with 2 majors on the year.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
To be able to get in the college football playoff. And the 3 games I mentioned, if they win at least one of those, guess what? They'll finish 10-2, and they'll be in the college football playoff without fail. So I think when it all comes down to it, that's really what this is about, team success as much as it is individual success. And if Arch has this team playing well and winning 10 games, I think the Heisman numbers are going to be there to back that up just based off of the offense that they play and how they move the football.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I think he's on easily the back 9 of his career at this point. A lot of fans I see on social media saying, oh, we got to sign this guy. We got to sign this guy. Something left here with Noah Fant? What gives?
I think they were ready to move on from him as a veteran, but I think Fant is like a number 2 tight end for a contender who can play a lot. I think that would interest me, and I've almost been looking around trying to find a good landing spot for him, and I've settled on what if he were to go back to the Broncos and sort of back up Evan Ingram.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When it comes to the running back situation, I think Browns fans were pumped to see what Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins were going to look like, especially because Judkins is a Buckeye. This is Buckeye territory up here. Ohio State fans were super excited about that. It let a lot of air out of the tire when it looked like this kid's going to miss at least the first 6 games of the season. So they could have a good running back, Tim.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. Great to catch up with Mohawk Esteban Rodriguez. Talk about that incredible knockout he had, and find out about the journey he has been on coming back to the BKFC after very serious injury. Glad to hear that his health is doing much better now and that he is back in full force in the BKFC. Can't wait to see him fight again. But if you can't wait to see other fights, we got him this weekend. Tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, Fight Night in Philly for the BKFC. Check it out on the BKFC app. And, of course, lots of Philly guys involved. At the main event, a guy who has fought in Philly. He isn't from there, but has fought in there and, got a great crowd reaction last fight night he was there. And that is welterweight, the disciple Dustin Pegg, who's going to be fighting against Ryan Peterson in this one. Of course, Pegg, the 37-year-old former UFC fighter, 4-2 in the BKFC, won 3 in a row before losing to Trinidad Snake, and then came back with a second-round TKO win over Andrew Angelcourt in March in Philly, as we said. So, he is familiar with the surroundings and the fans, looking to take advantage of them once again, this time against Peterson, the 40-year-old American who was 2-0 in the BKFC. He beat Godoy by second-round TKO last November in Cali, then beat Solochuk by unanimous decision in January in Cali. So, good experience for the BKFC over on the other side of the country. Now he comes into a different type of environment in Philadelphia as he fights the disciple here in this main event. Good record for him so far, 2-0. I think it becomes 2-1, though. The disciple has just been awesome for the BKFC. I mean, one of those losses, of course, was his first DQ and his first fight in the BKFC because coming over from MMA, just forgot you cannot hit a guy when he's down. Went on a hot streak after that. Got stopped by Trinidad Snake, but then rebounded right after that against a tough Californian and Andrew Angelcourt. Just dominated him in this one. Now, of course, Angelcourt fighting up a little bit in weight class for that fight, but still, the disciple looking good right now in the BKFC, looking like one of the best guys in that division, trying to make a case for himself to get into a chance to fight in welterweight tournament maybe, or maybe just for a title. Obviously, things are a little in flux right now with Trout giving up that belt but not giving it up. They stripped him of it, but he said he didn't give it up. So, after he fights in that lightweight tournament, he's planning on fighting for that welterweight belt. We'll see. Is it against a guy like the disciple here, or is it against Julian Lane, or is it against a Gogo Slavetsky? There's a lot of guys in top of that division looking to try to take a chance at that strap. And the disciple, Dustin Pegg, is looking to try to step up above them with another win here for the BKFC. Then you also have a women's flyweight battle. Rosalinda Rodriguez versus Gabrielle Roman. Rodriguez, a 38-year-old American, a.k.a. Venom, the 2-0 in the BKFC, a former glove boxer, where she was unbeaten, 13-0 before taking the gloves off to fight here for the BKFC. She beat Chris by unanimous decision in the 5th round of August in 2023 in Florida, then beat Franco by 3rd round TKO last March in Miami. So a lot of experience down there in Florida, coming up north, up I-95 to fight in Philly now against Gabrielle Roman, the 33-year-old from New Jersey. Now, she's going to have a lot of fans there, I'm sure, being close to home there. Philly not too far from where she is in Jersey. 1-2-1 in the BKFC. Had a great start to her BKFC career with a nice upset victory. Was coming off back-to-back losses to Jad Masong Wong by first round KO in March of last year, and Natalie Gage by unanimous decision in November of last year. So not a great 2024 for her. She's looking to rebound, looking to get back to 500 here and put her name back in the mix as one of the top fighters in this division. If she can have an impressive performance against Rodriguez, I just don't see it coming. I think that Roman is a tough fighter. She's always game to jump in. You got to appreciate that. But Rodriguez is a tough opponent, a lot of experience in glove boxing before coming over here and doing what she has done in the BKFC. I think she gets the 4th round TKO victory and moves to 3-0 in the BKFC, trying to climb up those rankings. Then also, you have middleweight bout, because if you're going to fight in Philly, you need Johnny Cannoli on the card. Johnny Garbarino is fighting in this one against Eric Lopez there in Philadelphia. Of course, Lopez, the American, is 3-1 in the BKFC. Hasn't fought since 2022, though, in the BKFC. He's fought in that time. Had a bare-knuckle fight in 2023 in another organization. Had an MMA fight in 2024. Had a boxing fight in 2025. But has not been in the BKFC since back in 2022. 1-2 in those 3 fights that we just mentioned. So not coming in on a hot streak here back to the BKFC. Going against Johnny Cannoli. Garbarino, the 29-year-old from Philly. Of course, huge on the scene there. Former MMA fighter and glove boxer. 2-0 in the BKFC, fighting on both their Philly cards so far. Both by KO in the first round, one at 1:59, so just 1 second before the bell. One at 47 seconds, so he got even better, even quicker. Of course, then proposed to his girlfriend after that first fight. So you better be pretty confident you're going to win if you got a ring in your corner there to try to get your girlfriend to marry you. She said yes, and he's on a high there for the BKFC ever since. I think he continues on that one. I'm saying first round KO again. Let's go 3 in a row for him. Garbarino by first round KO over Eric Lopez. Then also, you have the debut of Alessio Sakara, the former UFC fighter at cruiserweight, now going against Eric Lozano. Lozano, the 41-year-old from Michigan, longtime MMA fighter himself as well. Only 2-4 in the BKFC, though. That's because this is a guy who's going to come in there and he's going to try to finish you or get finished. He's not going for the decision. He's going for the finish, coming off back-to-back losses, both by stoppage. Has lost 3 of his last 4 in the BKFC. He's aggressive. He's violent. Feast or famine, like we said. Either you're getting finished or he is. He's not looking for a decision win. And then we'll see how that goes against Sakara, the 43-year-old from Italy. Had a long layoff after his time in the UFC and Bellator. Hadn't fought in 5 years before coming back and fighting bare-knuckle MMA last November. Now he joins the BKFC. Had been rumors and things signed allegedly years ago for him. It never came to fruition. Now it finally does. We saw him on that Italy card, doing an interview, talking about how he was going to finally fight for the BKFC. Now we get the fight that is going to be his first one. He had 14 of 20 MMA wins by KO, TKO in his career. So obviously another guy who can finish people. This isn't a guy who's going to be looking to go all 5 rounds either, even though it's quick fights, much quicker than his MMA career, where you get the 5-minute rounds, where just 2 rounds is as long as you have 5 rounds here in the BKFC. We'll see what it's like for him to get that first taste. Does he get off quick? Does he get right into the action? Does he kind of feel things out against Lozano, which can be a dangerous way to fight because this guy's coming in aggressive. So what are we going to see from Sakara in his first fight? Kind of hard to pick this one because, as we said, Lozano, a lot of experience, in the BKFC, not a lot of wins, but a lot of experience. Sakara, not a lot of experience, but a lot of power. I'm going to roll with Sakara in this one. I think that he gets the 3rd round TKO just because, while Lozano is fun to watch, has not brought home the bacon with the victories lately. So let's go with Sakara getting the debut win in Philadelphia. And then what's next for him? Do we see him on that Rome card? It would make sense if he gets his beak wet here to then go fight in Rome as long as he doesn't have major injuries. Also, going to see Travis the Animal Thompson back in action because you can't fight in Philly without him. But lots of great fights tonight in Philadelphia, BKFC Fight Night. Make sure you check it out on the app.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
You know, they still need Kelsey to beat Kelsey at times. I think they will baby him again. He won't be out there for 70, 80 plays. He's going to be out there for 55 plays, somewhere in that range here to keep him healthy as the season goes on here. So we have to keep that in mind as well. Plus the backup tight end there, he has some big games as well. So I think Kelsey is still very usable, but I think what you want to be careful about is you don't want to draft the name anymore.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. Appreciate you joining us every week as we talk about the biggest things in combat sports. Thanks to our guest today, the Gorilla Liz Carmouche and Mohawk Esteban Rodriguez, coming on and talking about their fights. Looking forward to seeing them both in action again soon. But now, before we get out of here, let's talk about some things going on in other areas of combat sports that we don't usually hit all the time on the show. That is boxing and the UFC. Now, of course, we had some great fights and boxing lined up throughout July. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, highlighting some of those. And of course, we had the retirement of Diamond Dustin Poirier here. So let's talk about those before we get out of here. We talked about the big weekend we had in boxing a few weeks ago. Like we said, we had a title fight between Pacquiao and Barrios, with Pacquiao getting back in there for a couple of years, after a couple of years of layoff in politics, and Usyk trying to become undisputed champion once again, the heavyweights. Let's first talk about Pacquiao Barrios, because it turned out to be a better fight than we thought. Still not a great fight, but ended up controversially to some people. A lot of people clamoring, including pro boxers, about Pacquiao, getting robbed. It was a majority draw. One judge had it for Barrios, 115, 113. Two judges had it as a draw. And a lot of people thought that Pacquiao got robbed, that he should have been one of the oldest champions, and that, it wasn't fair. And I think that's rubbish. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's a load of crap. I mean, honestly, did they watch the fight for real? Take off the Pacquiao colored glasses here. I watched that fight. I even went back and watched rounds over because, when I saw that, I'm like, am I seeing this wrong? Am I the idiot here? Because all these other people are talking about how great this guy did. Yeah, he lasted all 12 rounds. He threw a bunch of punches. It was better than expected. But I think, part of that is because Barrios, I think, just gave up some rounds. I don't think he really turned it up until the end like we saw, which has been a problem for him before. It's the second time he had to really rush the last couple rounds there in order to get to a draw. But he didn't fight like a championship fighter, but neither did Pacquiao. I mean, everyone has this love for him, and obviously he had an incredible career, has had a great career, and people were rooting for him. He's a fan favorite in a lot of ways, but he didn't win that fight. I don't know what you were watching. In fact, I don't even think he drew that fight. To me, I had it 116, 112 for Barrios. If you want to give a round here or there to Pacquiao, okay. If you want to say the 115, 113 was accurate, I can see that. But when you look at the judges' scorecards, there were 3 rounds that they had different. Otherwise, every other round, all judges scored it one way. They had 1, 6, 8, 9 for Pacquiao. I agree with that. I thought, those ones he came forward more. As you got into the 6, 8, 9, I thought he did a good job landing some good power shots in tight, was more aggressive. They all had 2, 3, 10 and 11 for Barrios. I agreed with all those. You know, he kind of turns it up a little bit more towards the end especially, but early on he was using that jab to keep Pacquiao away and, you know, using that height advantage where a lot of Pacquiao's punches were landing on the gloves. They weren't landing to the face. Some were landing to the body, but I thought his stiff jab was doing more damage to Pacquiao, was kind of snapping that head back a little bit more early on, and then the power punches that he was finally unleashing towards the end obviously put those last couple rounds in favor of him. The only ones that were really up for grabs, according to judges' scorecards, were 4, 5, and 7. And I gave all those to Barrios. You want to give one of those to Pacquiao? I could see it. I don't give him 2 of those. I don't make it 114, 114. I thought in the 4th round it was similar to the 3rd and the 2nd, where Barrios was using the jab, maybe getting a little more aggressive towards the end of it, maybe using some more power punches, but especially with that longer jab, was snapping Pacquiao's head back a little bit and was blocking a lot of Pacquiao's punches with the gloves. The 5th round, I thought, again, was getting better, was getting stronger. Big snapping jab. The 7th round, I thought he did better keeping the distance and keeping Pacquiao outside with the jabs, throwing more of those, not just throwing 1 or 2, throwing them in quick succession to really keep Pacquiao off him. And, you know, Pacquiao was throwing punches that were just short of landing, hitting the gloves, not hitting. I thought that Barrios was the clear winner of that fight. And maybe I'm the crazy one, but I don't think Pacquiao drew that fight. I don't even think it was 115, 113. I thought it was a 4-point advantage from Barrios. There was no 10-8 rounds. No one got knocked down. Wasn't even the most exciting fight. But I thought that Barrios still won that fight and is the champion as he should be. Then also, the guy that is still the champion is, of course, Alexander Usyk fighting Daniel Dubois for the 2nd time. This guy proved why he is the best at heavyweight, maybe one of the best ever. He was undisputed cruiserweight champion. Now for the 2nd time becomes undisputed heavyweight champion after dropping Dubois with some big shots. Dropped him twice in that round and just showed he is just a different class. Of course, there's other reports coming out. Maybe Dubois' dad kind of did him in a little bit here with causing problems with security at the venue, throwing a party before the fight that made Dubois leave the house and go sleep somewhere else because, you know, it was just loud and raucous and late. I don't buy any of that. Usyk is just a better fighter. And seriously, boxing, the interim belts, when you have a guy that is the champion that now becomes undisputed again because you gave an interim belt to somebody else for whatever reason, like there's too many governing bodies, too many belts in each division, and you can't give an interim belt out at the same time to make this guy now become a 2nd time undisputed. He was undisputed, remains undisputed. Incredible performance by him once again. Incredible performance by both Holloway and Poirier at the UFC in New Orleans as Poirier closed out his career. Both guys back and forth battle. Holloway keeps the BMF title as they both land some shots. They both get knockdowns, but Holloway is a little bit better. Great career by Dustin Poirier, though. The Diamond will for sure be a Hall of Famer and remembered.
In my mind, I was able to think and process. And if I let him get back up, he's going to get back up. I was like, let me finish this right now. And I caught him with that left hook, and then I caught him again with that right hook just to make sure the job was done because I was calculating his hands wasn't touching the ground and his knees weren't touching the ground, but I know he was still going down. To make sure he wasn't getting back up, I had to let those last 2 off, man.
Combat Sports Report. Only on SportsGrid.
He's just only 2,300 points behind. So even if he does win at Memphis, he's still going to be behind Scotty Scheffler in the points by 300. So why? I mean, I want Scotty Scheffler to show up in Memphis, but does he need to? If Rory's not showing up and the 3rd place guy, even if he wins, isn't going to pass him?
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
What do you make of the season that Barkley had last year as he piled on the yards to get over 2,000, and what can that look like this year?
His year could have been much better with different circumstances here. So he was great. I assume he'll be great again. You want to take Jahmyr Gibbs? I don't have an issue with it, but, you know, Barkley, yeah, you're going to lose the tush push.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Big Fish is the best player in the WNBA. She is running away with the MVP award. Why is that? Caitlin Clark, injured. Asia Wilson, not playing at Asia Wilson level, but it's more about the fact about what's around her has been an issue. So to me, you know, Fish is almost like the MVP because everyone else has like gone down in some way, shape, or form.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.